Hey everybody, welcome to the on-site edition of the Plumbing Gurus. This job here, what we did is we're doing a full gut renovation. We cut out all the drainage water lines in the basement, underground, main floor, and it's just a single floor on this one. But a lot of work to be done on this job. A lot of work has already been done. Let me go through a few things that we have done. This video is going to focus more on just the groundworks on this house. We will be showing more videos about more other parts of the house that we'll be roughing in. We got to go through the attic. We got to run a vent from the stack because they're adding a bathroom on the other end of the house, which we got to plumb. We'll go through everything that we've done and planned to get that to work. We got to work with the tin guys, HVAC guys, to be able to coordinate for where we're going to be running our vents for our tankless heater, for the drainage and water lines for that bathroom group as well. But let's dive into the groundworks here. So what we did here, I'm going to use my tape measure as a pointer, and I'll step out of the light so you guys can see. So what we had here is they came in here, the service came in, it wide over this way. This runs over into a P-trap, a check valve, and a clean out, which therefore catches all the rainwater. So this is storm drain, which catch all the rainwater. Usually this drain will run on the perimeter of the foundation of the house, and any rainwater that does make it into the basement will eventually come down through here. This is an old school. Usually what they'd have a separate system for the storm and for the sanitary. In this case, they're tied together. So we spoke to our inspector, and we told him what was going on, the situation. He said, as long as we leave the storm drain alone, we don't cut into it, we don't change anything to do with the storm drain, they will grandfather that in to have the storm drain tying into the sewer drain. So what we did here, we had a cast iron Y here. We tied our cast iron Y into a Fernco right here, right behind a normally opened back water valve. Code here for us is for any mainline back water valve has to be a normally open back water valve. The purpose of the normally open back water valve is to allow the air movement, so all the sewer gases now will always be able to run up and vent through the roof. Okay, so if you have it normally closed, now that's going to stop that air from flowing up, and you'll get an accumulation of sewer gases built up. You always want your gases to be able to vent up. Okay, so what we did here, now they've changed the rule on us here. I guess Mainline has sent out so many approvals for being able to tie in within 2 feet of a mainline back water valve. We didn't have to in this case, but now I guess our inspectors are turning a blind eye to it because they've had so many these letters coming out. Apparently they're just handing these letters out to people like candy, and it's not an issue anymore. So going on further, I think more of the issue, I'm guessing, is if you were to tie this in before 2 feet, and let's say you had a pipe coming in that was dropping, that had 3 bathrooms, had an excess load on, like a maximum load on a 3-inch pipe or a 4-inch pipe, and everything came rushed in and dropped down, that it would, everything, once it hits the bottom, it starts stirring a little bit, and it might flip that back water valve up. That's the only reason why I think that 2-foot roll was implied. Anyway, so moving on. So what we did here, we ran 4-inch. We'll start with the 4-inch because this is the easiest part. We just ran 4-inch all the way up past into the mechanical room. And then we're going to be having a 4-inch mainline clean out, or just a main clean out, will tie into here. So this 4-inch clean out will service all this 4-inch here up to here. Optional. If they want, they can always take this. It comes with a nice cover plate. I'll show you guys this afterwards. And you can always access this here as well and run another snake from here if you don't have the length of snake to run it from where it is in the mechanical room. So going on from here, we ran a 4x3 Y. So we ran a 4x3 Y here. This 4x3 Y now is going to be picking up the bathroom group in the basement. So now they've added a bathroom here. So the layout of the bathroom is they're going to have a shower here. They're going to have a toilet there. Beside the toilet, they're going to have a nice big vanity against that wall. We haven't made it that far. So now one of the problems that we had doing this was trying to get this bathroom plumbing in, staying as low as possible, because as you noticed, we have a 4x390. This is what we like to use for our toilets, so we try to keep it full size from the toilet into the 3-inch. We want to keep it as low as we can so we don't have this fitting here going above finished concrete. So we had to try to keep everything as low as possible. So what we had to do is we had to come up. The reason why we had to roll up here is because we had to come on the other side of this 4-inch here. So there's a lot of planning here that we had to do to make sure that everything worked before we just started cutting in and gluing pipe. So that's a big portion of this job. Doing any sort of plumbing is you want to make sure as soon as you run into like any kind of issue where it's like, oh, I might be able to make it here, I might be able to there, plan it out to make sure it's going to work before you just start gluing pipe together and finding out that you can't make it work, you got to do it another way, and then now you're wasting your time with glued fittings and all that stuff and cutting out existing or plumbing that's been glued. It's a pain. So we try to avoid that as much as possible. We don't recommend dry fitting, but in a situation like this, we ended up dry fitting almost all this section here, and then I plumbed it in, did my proper measurements with all the pipe and everything, and made it work. So now for functionality of the drain here, what we have is we have the 3-inch running up here. The 3-inch runs over to here. This is a 3x2Y. Okay, so our code requires for a bathroom group to vent a toilet, if you're using it off of a sink, has to be a minimum of 2 inches. So this pipe here, right here, is your wet vent for the bathroom group. So this is going to be a sink, runs down, wet vents here. Now this sink also wet vents the shower. Now there are some regulations for this. For one, you can't be any less than 8 feet. Okay, and the pipe cannot be any longer than 8 feet long. The 2-inch pipe cannot drop more than 2 inch of grade. So you got the pipe here at 4 inches, it can't go below 6 inches. It can't have more than a 2-inch drop. The reason for that is because it's going to choke the P-trap, and then it's going to end up sucking the water, siphoning the water out of the trap. So that's this bathroom group. I think I got everything covered here. The toilets, we always like to go 13 inches off of rough wall. The reason why we go 13 inches off rough wall is we've had some issues before in the past where people think it's a good idea just to add tile on the wall behind. So you can see here, 13 inches to the center of the toilet off rough wall. So if they add drywall, now it's going to be 13 inches. Some people say, oh, that seems a little far. It is a little far. Maybe it gives a little bit of a gap behind the toilet, but it's better that than them adding tile behind the toilet and bringing it out too far, and now your toilet doesn't fit in the wall. We've had that happen before in the past, and it's a pain. You got to get a smaller tank, a different toilet. It's a pain to deal with. So we just always rough our toilets in now at 13 inches. So from here, what we have is, I'll continue on with the 4-inch trunk line now. The 4-inch trunk line runs into here. It Y's here, as you can see. This Y is going to be picking up the floor drain, which is then in the mechanical room. And our code here requires that we have a floor drain in the basement of the building. This 2-inch is going to run straight over, runs straight up here. This is going to be serving a bar sink, and it's also going to be serving the laundry, washer, dryer, mostly just the laundry. As far as I know, that's all it's doing. I don't think it's doing like a laundry tub, right, Karsten? It's just doing the laundry and it's doing a bar sink. Easy, easy. So that's the groundworks for the drainage side. Let me show you guys now what we did for the water line. For the water line, it's very strange, these old buildings, they just kind of put things wherever. They had no thought about the future or planning, being like, oh, we'll just build a box in the middle of the basement here, and this is where our water line is going to be. And then they didn't run any like stop and drains for their hose bibs, or they'd just be in the ceiling somewhere. So with that being said, they had this copper line. It ran up into the wall here, and the water meter stuck out of the wall here. As you can see, they had something built here, like a box around, built that box specifically just for the water line. I don't know why they just wouldn't move it to the mechanical room back then, but that's how they did things back then. So what we did then is we cut it, we dropped it down here, and you can see here how I utilized the same access panel that we're going to use for this mainline back water valve. I used the same spot for my corporation coupling. If you put a corporation coupling into the ground, you want to make sure that you have access to it. What's the point of having two access panels? You know, I could have cut it back here, just put my corporation back here, but then I need an access panel here and an access panel here. Now what I've done is and the contractors and everybody, they love this. You want to make sure you're planning ahead, you're thinking ahead, you're putting detail, you're putting a little passion into your work. So they love seeing this kind of stuff. And same with the inspectors. The inspectors see this stuff right away. He sees something like that, just how we offset and ran all the drains. They'll usually just come in here, look at it, end up talking to us most of the time, pass it with flying colors, good to go, they move on to the next. So what we did is we have we went from copper to PEX. So the copper side of this corporation coupling here slides right on. On the PEX side, we needed a little sleeve. So we put a sleeve inside of the PEX. We tighten those with wrenches. I always give a little extra. I'll bottom them right out until they start squeaking, the corporation couplings, if you guys have any experience with that. And yeah, so now this PEX line just runs underground, runs right over to here. We like to use a conduit of some sort when we bring the PEX through the concrete. I don't think it's code, but it definitely looks a lot better, and it also doesn't put any strain, like too much strain on the PEX. So you can see it just comes up nice and tidy. The reason why we have that piece of wood behind there is they're going to be sheeting this wall. We didn't have any sheeting with us, so we just wanted to allow for just a little bit of room for the sheeting to slide down so they don't have to notch the sheeting out. So that's another thing, right? We're always thinking ahead, thinking about other people, other trades. That's what plumbing is about. You're not just throwing pipe. I mean, I get it. A large portion of it is putting the pipes together, make sure it's level, grading and all that. But the other part is you're always thinking about other people. So here, all we did is we put a valve right away. We allowed for, before we tied anything in here, we allowed for the city to come back in here. It's minimum 18 inches from the valve to any other connection so that they can have enough room to put their meter in. And just above, we always like to put a little drain valve here. Why? Because, you know, if somebody's thirsty, they want water, they got it. Also, if they're doing concrete, they have a hose here. They can just run a hose off the hose bib, fill up their bins, mix their concrete, all done, good to go. And we also use it as a stop and drain. That's for future. Thank you, Karsten. All right, guys, thanks a lot for watching. If you guys have any other different ways that you do this, or you got any tips, or if you just want to be like, hey, you guys are awesome, you guys are doing a great job, we'll take it. To all you guys that are watched to the end, thank you very much. We appreciate it. You guys have a good one. We'll see you on the next on-site edition.